But in my opinion, if you're willing to invest $30 in the cable handle bucket setup and another $8 in a 2x4, I would urge you to do so, because then you have a perfect home gym for $50. I'm a biomechanics expert as well as a breathing specialist. I do a lot of different things, and I educate and lecture about a ton of different things. Those are the only two that are relative to today's topics. Now, for those of you, again, who don't know, biomechanics is the study of how forces affect living material. In this case, it's the case of how gravity is affecting the levers of your body or your bones. So you're a personal trainer, I guess you probably already know this, but your bones operate like levers, your joints behave as hinges or pivot points, and your muscles cross those two levers, and their only function is to bring the levers together. Now, what you don't know is that they can either do that efficiently or inefficiently because of something known as a resistance curve. But before I get into that, I'd just like to say that for those of you who don't know, there are three types of levers: a class 1 lever, a class 2 lever, and a class 3 lever. Those are the types of levers found inside of a human body. That's what your body is made of. You are an organic machine, and you function like one. In order for you to breathe, to move, to walk, to do any movement whatsoever, it requires your muscles to contract or to pull levers together. Even breathing or inspiration requires that. That's how you breathe. So, long story short, that's muscles kind of in a nutshell. This is a replica of my arm. This is my humerus, this is my forearm, this is just my hand. I put a wrist joint and I put an elbow joint. You'll notice that the bicep, the origin, is up here, and the insertion is down here. Now, without making this complicated, bicep is called bicep because it's made up of two different muscles. However, both of those muscles insert at one location, and their origin is in one location. This is important information. The second bit of important information to understand is that muscles cannot push. So we've all heard of so-called push-pull workout days. There's no such thing. And I'll explain to you very simply. If I gave you a rope and I tied that rope to a refrigerator and I said, pull that rope, what could you do? You could pull the rope towards yourself. Could you push the refrigerator away from you? No. Could you bring the refrigerator to the left or to the right or any other direction except towards yourself? So in this case, you would be the biceps origin. You are a gentleman or a lady standing up here holding a rope. That rope is the bicep, which goes down, and it inserts here. The reason it's called the insertion is very simple. This is the bone that moves. Because this is the bone that moves, that's why it's referred to as the insertion. The origin does not move. That's why it's the origin. That goes for all muscles on your body. Now, to be fair, some muscles cross multiple levers. An example would be your spine. That has multiple muscles that cross multiple vertebrae on your spine. But all in all, muscles only have the one job. That's very simple, which is to bring two levers together, and that is insertion to origin. Very simple. Now, when it comes to performing a bicep curl, the gentleman up here or the lady holding the rope, they have no brain, they have no knowledge of anything besides the fact that they have to lift this lever up. That's all they know. They have no idea if you're upside down, if you're sideways, if you're underwater, if you're in outer space. They know that you have to lift the lever up. That's all the bicep does, is lift the forearm up. Now, the reason I'm saying that, and I'm being so repetitive about it, is because people will tell you you can alter the shape of a muscle by a different hand grip with a dumbbell. This is not true. Biceps do not have a brain. You cannot prioritize one form of muscle fiber over another muscle fiber, considering they all work together and they all contract at the same time. This is something called the all or nothing principle. Either all of your muscle fibers are working, or none of them are working. Doorway, everybody can access them. You get it at a thrift store for $5, Amazon for 10, Walmart for whatever, 20. All you're gonna do, put this, let's just pretend, in the doorway, okay? Now I'm not actually gonna do it because the last time I did, I broke the frame. So let's just pretend I'm putting it in the doorway, okay? Now that you're chin-up bar, whatever, is in the doorway. And I should also add, yes, this also works with the Bowflex ones, the ones that look like a half U, you hook. It works just as well. The reason for this I'm about to get into, but we're going to get into physics for just one more brief second. We have to talk about physics. Whenever you're using a cable machine, doesn't matter any form of cable machine, what you are doing in essence is redirecting gravity. So a simple explanation of this is it doesn't matter if I have a dumbbell or a water bottle or a brick or whatever it may be, 5 pounds is 5 pounds, like if I was holding 5 pounds of feathers, 5 pounds is 5 pounds, nobody cares. However, here's the thing. You can redirect the gravity of that 5 pounds by using a pulley system. So when you have a pulley system, which I'm about to show you now, all it is a cable over a swivel pulley. You guys have all seen this before. You guys all know what this is. It's nothing fancy. You see it, but you don't think about it. In your gym machines, all the machines you guys use at the gym, they have these.
Yes, they
If it's a bicep curl machine with handles, this is still in there redirecting the force onto that machine that you're using onto the lever. It's the same thing with any glute machine, cable machine, etc. This is how they work. They work by redirecting gravity. How you're going to use your doorway gym is very simple. You're going to set it up in such a way that you're going to redirect gravity to the most efficient angles to maximally use the levers in your body in the resistance curve, proper resistance curve. So again, we're going to use our imaginations, guys. I need you to pretend I'm actually hooking this over the chin-up bar. I'm not going to, but let's pretend I am. Now the reason I'm not going to is simply it might just break the frame. I need to get a stronger frame. I had to make this one in like half an hour today, forgive me.
This is just a demo.
It's just a demo. You guys, it works just the same with a regular door, I promise. So then once you got this guy up, whatever it may be, you're going to be using a Velcro strap. And reminder, it's a Velcro strap over a pull-up bar, okay? Okay, so then we have the ability to redirect gravity. Okay, it doesn't look fancy, but it's about to get a little bit more important. So then the only other things that you need is a handle and a bucket. That's a collapsible bucket, and here's a handle. Actually, I'll use a couple other things too.
What length is that cord?
Well, that's the thing is, the beautiful thing is it doesn't too much matter. The actual cable itself, most cables are either between 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, 14 feet, etc. It doesn't really matter because as long as you're directing the angle, the length is irrelevant. So, like
for a door frame,
for a door frame, this is an 8-foot cable I'm using now. So this is an 8 foot, I can tell you that. But I can also use any other length. It's a bit irrelevant actually.
where do you buy those?
Anywhere. I get it anywhere, man.
Yeah, I bought my thingy from Amazon.
So just to show you real quick as a demo, here's a cinder block.
Come on.
Okay, so all I'm doing in this case is I'm redirecting the weight of the cinder block to a different angle. So now when I push down, I have to use my tricep to lift the cinder block. Whereas normally I would use my bicep to lift the cinder block. But that's because now gravity is facing down instead of facing up, because the pulley is redirecting it. This is how pulleys work. So very simply again, just to restate, provided you know the correct angles that you want the levers of your body put in, you can have a perfect workout anywhere with anything. Very simple. Now again, I'm using a cinder block. You can use water, you can use bricks, you can use a bucket of sand, you can use a bucket of sand to easily measure things. You can use books, you could use your cat in a bucket, don't tie it around its neck. You could do a lot of things. The point is, weight is weight. It is completely irrelevant as long as you have a doorway. So now we're going to get into demoing how to actually use it. Now, reminder, we're going to be using our imagination. This is not a real doorway frame. With a real doorway frame, how much weight can you use? I get asked this question all the time by every new client I take on who uses this system. It's really easy to understand. If you put the chin-up bar in the doorway and you tighten it, and you can hang your body from that, it can absolutely at least hold your body weight. Does that make sense? So, no exercise that you're going to be doing with this, provided perhaps one, if you're very strong, will require you to use anything even close to your full body weight. The vast majority of exercises you'll be performing with this will be performed with less than 50 pounds. To put that in perspective, that is a 150-pound bag of sand. It is 2 cinder blocks. You get the idea. Okay? It's not that much weight. You could have your kid stand on a platform and lift your child up if you have a kid. I don't know. It's lots of stuff you could do. Weight is weight. As far as using it, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over upper body. Before I get into upper body, I'm going to say one thing. For efficiency's sake, it is always best to prioritize one muscle and one limb at a time. This is called unilateral training. It is better because it doesn't compromise anything neurologically. You get more force, you get more strength generation, etc. Bilateral training would be doing 2 arms at the same time. For the sake of the doorway gym, if you want to save time and you're not carrying around efficiency too much, use both arms at the same time, both legs at the same time. It's perfectly fine to do that. If you want to be very, very efficient, you would be doing 1 arm, 1 leg, 1 muscle at a time. You get the idea. It's really just a matter of how much time you're willing to spend for efficiency's sake in this particular regard. All right, so everybody can see everything okay? Excellent. First thing we're going to start off with, very simple. We're going to start off with the tricep. Now, I'm not going to go into detail explaining these movements. I'm not going to explain why these movements are perfect to the best. I just need you guys to understand that when I'm using these movements, I will be operating inside a natural, correct resistance curve. I will be magnifying the use of my levers, and I'll basically be just doing it the most efficient way possible. If you want to know more, go to Castle's Corner on YouTube, any of my channels, my books, my articles, etc. You'll see it all there. In the meantime, let's get started with triceps. In this case, due to the length of the cable, because again, length of the cable is irrelevant, I won't be doing tricep standing. It would be bad. Instead, I'm going to kneel down. This will then allow me to put my arm in the correct position. Correct position would be my humerus or my upper arm alongside my torso parallel. The cable roughly positioned 30 to 45 degrees behind my body like this. And then I go through a complete movement like this. You know the cable is in the right position if, when you finish the movement, the cable is parallel with your arm. Your arm should be straight. In this case, you know you're doing it correctly. And just a reminder, when you do this, it will be rapidly down, straight, up. You want nothing to move except your forearm. Your forearm should be the only lever moving. Hold your body perfectly stable. Everything on your body tensed and stable except your forearm. Rapidly contract, slowly return to the original position. That's tricep. This will be a speed run, just so we all know. Next thing is going to be rear deltoids. The only important thing to understand about rear deltoids, they are a diagonal muscle. Therefore, the movement will be a diagonal movement. Once again, due to the length of the cable, I will be performing this slightly bent. Actually, I can probably do it standing, as a matter of fact. So to do it standing, I'm going to be bracing my feet in the direction of resistance. My arm will be straight in front of me, torso elevated. I will then pull my arm rapidly backwards, like an inverted V, and slowly return it to the initial position. I'm going to do a few in a row while you guys circle me with the cameras so you can get all the angles on this, so people can see all of the angles. I know it's a little bit confusing, this one. And once again, you will be rapidly contracting the muscle, which in this case is pulling it backwards here, and then slowly returning it to the start position. And just one more. All right, so we all get the idea. We're going to move on to the front deltoid now. To the front deltoid, very easy to understand. The movement itself will look exactly like this. The front deltoid's job is to operate the humerus and pull it forward. The important thing to note is that the palm should be up in this case, and your arms will move exactly like this. The only difference will be my body's position in relation to the cable. I'm going to bend at the hips. It's going to look like this. By me bending at the hips, I then put the cable in line with where I want it, pushing forward, slowly returning it to the original position. Now I know I'm doing this movement correctly if the cable stays parallel on my forearm the entire motion. I should be pushing in a straight line and then returning it to the original position. All right, now moving on. Decline chest. Without getting too much into it again, guys, I'm sorry, but there's only one movement you should be doing for your chest, and it is a decline movement. This is because incline movement targets exactly 0 chest fibers. If you're not sure why that is the case, check out my videos. Bench press only targets roughly 60%. A decline movement targets 95% of your pectoral fibers. So we'll be accomplishing this by standing, putting ourselves relatively like this. The cable should be parallel with your forearm. You'll be starting exactly here and pushing in a straight line in a decline movement. Now again, because we are redirecting gravity, this is a decline chest press. I know it might not look like it, but if you were to imagine me on my back, upside down with a dumbbell in my hand, this is exactly what it would look like. And again, just a reminder, the cable should be parallel with my forearm the entire movement. Next, we're going to get into the lats. Now the lats are a misunderstood muscle. Most people think you have to do chin-ups, which don't target them very well. Pull-ups, which once again do not target them very well. What we will be doing is targeting them efficiently. Efficiently meaning, as I addressed earlier, insertion to origin in a straight line as possible. Now the origin is here. The insertion is here. And in order to put that in the correct place, resistance opposite, you must very simply assume a T stance, rotate the wrist 30 degrees up, 30 degrees forward, and then you'll be pulling the cable while maintaining a neutral forearm. This is what it'll look like. But again, I'll go through it again with the weight. In this case, once again, due to the length of the cable, I believe I'll be needing to kneel down for this one. So from a kneeling position, this would be me in my T stance. Now instead of raising my arm, I'm just going to walk away from the cable. That elevates my arm nicely. I'm then going to rotate my body 30 and 30. This is the same position I just showed you. And the last thing I'll be doing is flipping my wrist. Now I'll be pulling my elbow towards my hip in as straight a line as possible, rapidly. And then slowly returning to the original position. Once again, rapidly and slowly returning to the original position and rapidly. You guys get the idea. And it would be identical on the other side. All right, next, an arc and then get close to the body. Gravity originating here, starting the movement, isolating the elbow against the hip bone here, the pelvis, so that the upper arm cannot move. You're then going to move it through the same arc of resistance simply by redirecting gravity. And this would be how you'd be doing a cable bicep curl. Of course, you could just simply use cinder blocks for bicep curls or any other thing, but should you want to use a cable, this is how you would do so. Simple enough. And this, once again, fast and slow. Very simple to understand. The next one would be your shoulders, or sorry, your traps, I suppose. We're going to do your upper traps next. So upper traps, most of you would know this movement is a shrug. However, I'll be doing it with one arm, still a shrug. I'm just going to change one thing. Most of you know when you see people do shrugs, they do some like this. The problem with this is if muscles pull insertion to origin. By doing this, you're implying that you have origins on the top of your head. Now, since you don't look like a cobra, that's not the case. And if you look at an anatomy chart, you'll see that the upper traps, they connect right here, the back of your neck. So in order to do that with your newfound information, origin is on the back of your neck, the insertion is over here, and you want to use gravity in a straight line opposite the origin. So you want to put the origin essentially opposite gravity. You can use the cable as a visualization of gravity in this case, and we're going to opposite load the origins by simply stepping out a bit, making sure that the shoulder has load at the start of the movement. It'll be here. All I'm going to do is bend at my hips 10 degrees. Now, this is opposite my shoulder in a straight line, and I'm just going to lower it all the way, raise it up. Now, I have full range of motion, insertion to origin for performing a shrug. And you'll notice once again, even though it's a very small range of movement, it is all the way up rapidly and then lowered slowly. Just because it's a small range of movement doesn't mean you do it slow. You still perform it slowly. And in this case, your arm should be nothing more than a rope. You should be pulling from right here. Okay? And also, let's do lateral deltoid. So in this case, cable, something like this. Lateral deltoid, this triangle-shaped muscle here that you get your shots in, is going to be positioned opposite resistance. You're going to be rapidly raising the weight, maintaining a straight arm, slowly lowering it. It is important again to keep the lateral deltoid facing up. So keep your hand flat during the movement. Don't allow your pinky to go up or down. You guys get the idea. And again, just rapidly raise, slowly low. This is important. All right, moving on. The middle attachment you're going to use for things like obliques. So your obliques, once again, misunderstood. You'll typically see people have a weight plate or something doing a movement like this. That does not target them efficiently because the resistance is not opposite position loaded. In this case, it is. Obliques are over here on this side, right here. Resistance is now opposite those obliques. The active lever is going to be my upper torso and my spine. What I'm going to do here is very simple. A small side crunching movement. That's all that it is. Small. For most people, by the way, if you have a heavy weight, you want to space your legs. I don't have a heavy weight for this, but just the more you space your legs, the easier it will be to hold yourself stable. Bear in mind, though, the height. Don't get too low. You want to still keep it opposite position loaded. So again, just take your spine just outside of neutral, and then small crunching movement. Stand up till you're straight, and then a little bit past that, and then crunch till you're straight. A little bit past that, and then crunch. Now the crunching portion will be the concentric, and the slowly going out will be the eccentric. So once again, fast and slow. Okay? So, in this case, if you remember that pull-up bar, which we are using in our imagination, we're going to take the same pull-up bar and we're going to lower it down here. How low is down here? You're going to stand in front of your door. You're going to put the pull-up bar behind your knees, right there, and that is the height you'll be putting it in the doorway. Once you have that locked in your doorway, you have already hopefully gone to my channel and seen how to build this. Now all this is a 2x4 that's been cut into 5 pieces. That's it. 2 pieces for the back, 1 piece to hold them together, One piece on each side is an additional support. All this is going to do is get tucked in your doorway. Then you take the pull-up bar, put it at that knee height I told you about, right there. Now this looks suspiciously like this. So what this is for is going to be for training your hamstrings as well as your quads. But in my opinion, I would argue more efficiently than using the cable setup. That's why I'm showing this to you guys today. So I'm going to demonstrate how to use this now and then give a brief explanation as to why it's so efficient. Once again, use your imagination. This is a portable setup. This will work identically to how this works. Just check out the video. It's simply a freestanding version of the doorway. Instead of the pull-up bar being the support, I simply lengthen the bottom to provide additional support. I hope that makes sense to everybody, okay? This is just a pool noodle. This is just a stick. All you're gonna do is tuck your feet in here. You're gonna position the stick, again, this is too low, directly behind your knees, like so. Once it's there, cover it with your lovely pad. Now, when using this particular machine, this is not a squat. Squat is a movement which uses a lot of different muscles in your body to perform it. This is an isolated quad exercise until you reach the very top, where the glutes take over just a little bit. The reason it's isolated is because you'll be leaning backwards, essentially turning your body into a lever. All of the force is going into your feet, and in this case, the pivot point or the fulcrum will be right behind my knees. Now, this is basically me performing a leg extension using my body weight. So it's a quad isolated exercise. All you do to perform this correctly is lean back as much as you're able to while slowly going down to the base. And then when you go to come up, you're going to lean forward, lightening the load slightly to come up. The reason for this again is we want to take full advantage of the eccentric being stronger than the concentric. When I am lowering myself slowly, as I am here, that's the eccentric portion, and it's stronger, so I want to maximally load that. However, it's a lot harder for me to come up the concentric portion. I'm going to lean forward, lightening the load. The load, once again in this case, being my torso. So, this is far superior, in my opinion, for training your quads. The reason for this is if you'd be using the cable setup, you'd have to have a chair, a strap, another strap for your ankle. You'd be doing it with semi-limited range of motion, and in most cases, most people simply don't use enough weight. In this case, you're able to load it efficiently. You can get an easy number of reps because most people's body weight is more than sufficient, even if they lay parallel with gravity. I mean, for most people, that's way too much load to do efficiently anyways. So that's quads. Now we're gonna get into hamstrings. For hamstrings, with the same machine, you're just gonna lower it down to the bottom peg, or the last hole, basically. Once it's there, pad goes on it. In this case, though, I'm going to be on this side of it, tucking my feet in like this. Now, a couple of things to note about this. Guys, see a lot of people perform this exercise, and they perform it very incorrectly. So, there you go, buddy. Couple key things to note about the hamstrings. All muscles operate strongest and would produce the most force when they are the optimal length. If you were to compare this to a lying hamstring curl, your butt is always going to come off the seat when you're performing those. Now that's because your body knows the optimal length of its hamstrings and is trying to rotate its pelvis to give you a 90-degree position. This position gives you the efficient length in your hamstrings, essentially. So, long story short, when you're performing this exercise, you're going to start in a bent position. You're going to start at 90 degrees like so. If it's hard for you, I want you to start with your fingertips on the ground and slowly lower yourself like this, limiting the load placed on your arms. If you're stronger with your hamstrings, you'll be starting at the 90-degree position, lowering yourself about here, catching yourself, and then pushing up again to aid with the concentric nature of it. So going down is the stronger portion. So you go slowly, raising yourself. You give yourself a little bit of help with your hands because that's where your body's weaker, and it's very important you try your best to keep your body in that 90-degree position for the majority of the movement. I'll show you a couple in a row here. So bend 90, lean forward, the weight is here, catch yourself down, push up rapidly, same thing, lower yourself, catch yourself, push up rapidly. Now these are deceivingly hard. They look very easy, they're very difficult. This is why you don't see people perform these. They're not showy, they're not impressive looking, and they're very difficult. Now, there are of course many different alternatives to these exercises you can do, but in my opinion, if you're willing to invest $30 in the cable handle bucket setup and another $8 in a 2x4, I would urge you to do so, because then you have a perfect home gym for $50. Now that's going to be the end of the lecture for today, guys.